Paul George, if he just had a season similar to last season, it would just alleviate so many problems. Like he was a 41% three-point shooter last year. This year he's just league average on one less attempt. Like his field goal percentage is below the average NBA player this season. He was at 23 points last season. This season he's at 16. Like he's just not producing. And it's just, dude, it just handicaps this team, especially when Embiid's not playing. Like, who do you go to? Not Paul George. Like, GMLB family, welcome back to another episode of Good Morning Let's Basketball. My name is Mike Miles, and today I am with my co-hosts, Kevin and Victor. Daniel, unfortunately, hasn't made it due to a combination of a broken computer and a power outage. Therefore, we are starting a GoFundMe to get bro a new computer. He's got exams due, online exams. I don't think they're getting done. So pray for my boy Daniel. He's going to need help until he gets back. We'll keep the boat rolling for him. But fellas, how are we doing today? What's the vibe like?
It was ATL last week. This week we're in Houston, Texas. It's different. I'm ready to run it up after today's recording.
I'm doing great, man. Excited for the Luka debut, or not debut. Sorry, Luka versus Mavericks today. Kyrie looking like rookie Kyrie. I don't know if you guys seen the pics, but he shaved, has a goatee now. It's gonna be a masterclass tonight.
I actually have not seen that, but I got to go peep that because I actually want to see that. I guess I'll see it tonight. But we got a lot to talk about today, and by a lot, I actually mean not that much. We're gonna do a short and sweet episode today. We're gonna just talk about the absolute dumpster fire that is currently the 20-37 Philadelphia 76ers, sitting 12th in the East. What happened this season? What the future outlook is? What's going wrong? We're going to talk about all that, and then after that, we're going to just jump into touching on Wemby's blood clots and kind of what that means for the San Antonio Spurs, what that means for Wemby's close future, and kind of the method of what the Spurs are actually going to do and what they should do. So, fellas, let's just get into it here. Let's start with the Philadelphia 76ers. Kevin, I'll let you open us up. What is going on in Philadelphia this season?
I recall back to one of our co-hosts before the season stating, and I quote, "The Sixers are going to be nice." And I was like, yeah, when? Was never really fully bought in, but a majority of the part of the reason is, first off, Embiid doesn't play basketball. That's number one. The former league MVP just doesn't work. On top of that, Paul George is a dumpster fire. What was it, a couple weeks ago when he had a game where he had like 2 points and just played awfully? I mean, at this point, they're almost paying a 40-year-old $200 million. Like, it was just a dumb signing. But I was crazy. On top of that, last night they let the Chicago Bulls put up 142 points on them. This is probably all I'm going to talk about because that's just ridiculous. It's the Bulls. It had 4 white guys starting. You lost, and it was Zach Collins and Kevin Huerter in that starting lineup with Josh Giddey, and y'all let them get 25 and 16. I think a JV team, any JV team in like Nebraska or Idaho or whatever state that doesn't play basketball wouldn't have done that bad.
Dude, I feel bad for Paul George, man. Anytime the NBA mentions Paul George, it is straight hate comments. It is straight hate. There is no positivity from the fans. The narrative of Paul George is just in the dumpster. And I will say this, 16 points per game, 16 podcast episodes. I've mentioned I've mentioned on this podcast before that I was an avid listener of Podcast P, and like I just can't bring myself to listen to it anymore, considering like how many people are just like dude, you got to focus on basketball. And I get that. I think you could do both. But man, it's just like it's just uncomfortable because I know Paul George is aware that people are criticizing him for having his podcast, so listening to it is just an uncomfortable feeling. So
He had to go from like one of the most loved NBA players to one of the most hated, man.
He
it,
just he just never came around. Like all the good teams he's been on, the signings, the good seasons he's had. I mean, this dude was an MVP in MVP voting a handful of years ago on OKC. That's fine, but it just never panned out. I think people just started calling out his bluff. Like, yo, maybe this dude really isn't that nice. Pandemic P, y'all remember that? It wasn't that long ago.
oh yeah.
You still remember it like yesterday.
The thing that makes me mad about him too is like he just doesn't have any like great sayings for the 76ers this season. And respectively, they've been trash, but they asked him if he had any words of wisdom to help Embiid get through his injury struggles, and he was like, drugs help. And then he was also saying that like they're showing no signs of the team will be competing. He said they don't have habits of a championship or playoff contending team. And he says all they can do is to try to work hard and try to keep going for one another. And we have no signs of forget championships, but it's a playoff contending here team here, or something along those lines.
I did see him say that when I was scrolling through IG today. And if there's anybody in the league that knows what being on a not contender looks like, it's probably him. So I think he hit it on the head there. I think he's been on a lot of sorry ass teams the past few years.
Dude, I looked it up too. He hasn't scored more than 20 points in a month. The last time he had 20 plus was he had 30 on January 24th against Cleveland.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That's actually crazy.
in his last 10, he's averaging 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists on 31% from three and 44% from the field in 33 minutes. Like, bro, I feel bad for Maxey. Like,
Yeah, he's averaging 27. He's doing really good.
he's doing everything.
I
Like,
know, dude.
man, I don't think he got what he bargained for. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing we can say is I don't know what Embiid's future looks like. Paul George isn't going to be in the league that much longer, but
Oh, oh man,
Maxi, I mean, he's like 35. He's not going to be in the league that much longer.
it's true.
This dude ain't playing until 40 like Bron and KD. He's not in that tier. But Maxi's leading the new wave. They have their guy, and they have Jared McCain too, who was running away with the rookie of the year. I mean, this dude was putting up back-to-back 30-point games. So the future is going in the right direction, but they made the signing to win now, and they're doing the exact opposite. It's pretty atrocious.
What do you guys like speaking about that? Like, what do you think the 76ers direction for the future is? Because they owe Embiid 4 years, $247 million, and he's only played 19 games this season. And Paul George, they owe him 156 million for the next 3 years. So do they shut down Embiid and shut down the Sixers for the rest of the season, or try to continue winning?
Dude, I think there would be things thrown on the court the first game they decide to sit both of them and just give up on the season. Like, yes, it makes sense, but I don't think there's a realistic future where they genuinely shut them down for the season. Um, but man, it's appealing, At this point, the the ceiling is like a playing spot just to turn around and face Cleveland or Boston, which they're just going to get smoked by anyway. So I think I kind of think you just coast the rest of the season. Save yourself the reputation of shutting down your players and calling it quits. Just coast, miss the plan, kind of what they're doing now, and just gear up for next season. I don't think personally Embiid will ever play over 50 games again in his career. I I don't think he's the guy. Um, but I still don't think you trade him. I don't think there's people willing to take him on, but I just I don't see a world where they trade him still, even with the injuries, because him at his peak is a top 3 player in the NBA. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question. I don't think they should shut it down though.
You,
Yeah.
before
I
you
mean,
go,
shutting
Kevin,
it down. Go ahead.
I do want to mention that where is it? When they traded away Al Horford, they sent a pick to OKC, and that pick will be OKC if 76ers do not finish bottom 6 in the league. They could get their pick back if they do finish bottom 6.
Yeah, that's that's where I wanted to go, but couldn't remember. I had a brain fart mid thought, but that's where I was trying to get to was that pick that they can get back for just coasting. So, but go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely gonna need a little bit more than one pick. This team needs a lot. But yeah, I'm kind of on par with Miles here. Like, definitely don't shut it down. Like, you still want to be competitive and actually play. Get these guys some type of chemistry because they just don't have it because they never play together. And trading Embiid is going to be impossible. That's just such a big financial burden that any team in the league is going to take on. If there's any team that would possibly entertain it and would do it, my guess is the Warriors. They're desperate asses. But they did also just sign Jimmy. They have Curry still there. There's not possible. Again, financial burden. But
Mm.
like Embiid just doesn't play basketball. Like, do you really want to see this dude play less than half a season for the next however many years this dude tries to be in the NBA? It's just they're not going to get anywhere. They're not going to win anything. The season is simply too long for him. The game is simply too aggressive for him. It's just you're just in this weird spot. Like, all right, well, we're not going to get rid of him, but he doesn't play. But we're also not going to get rid of him. So it's just such a weird spot. I don't think it would be a horrible idea to after his contract's over to just shoot, move on.
Yeah. I I wanted to point attention to a trade that made no sense to me. Well, actually, it was a trade that was good for the 76ers, in my opinion. And that's acquiring Quentin Grimes and a 2025 second in exchange for Caleb Martin. I think they dodged a bullet trading Caleb Martin. And getting Quentin Grimes is a great pickup for them. But again, diamond in the rough. it's the stick of hope in the mud, and really you can't even call Quentin Grimes a stick of hope. So I will say, if they did one thing right, I think that trade is so lopsided in Philly's favor that at least they did something that worked at the trade deadline. But then again, it's only a matter of time before Grimes gets injured. It seems like it's a curse at this point with the Philadelphia 76ers. Everyone just gets hurt.
Yeah, Jared McCain got hurt earlier in the season. He was playing really well until he got hurt. I think, dude,
Hmm.
the biggest thing about the 76ers this season, it was like Embiid kind of foreshadowed how their season would go before it started in the preseason, jokingly saying that he'll never play a back to back in his career again. And then he just has only played 19 games this season. I think his record is 8-11 with the 76ers this season. It's just been not great at all for the 76ers.
Do we think it's more of a like roster construction, like this team doesn't have enough injury type of deal? Or do we think it's more of just like a culture issue with this squad? Because we saw earlier, like the head of the snake is Joel Embiid. Everything that Joel Embiid does is going to echo through the team, right? And I don't think people give enough credit to the cultural part of this roster because I mean we already saw Tyrese Maxey call out Joel Embiid earlier in the season. Shout out Kyle Lowry for leaking that information. So we were off to a bad start to begin with. And I just kind of think since that moment, it's just been echoing through. And like you brought up Victor earlier, Paul George's comments were like even he doesn't have it doesn't seem like he has confidence anymore, saying they like aren't ready to like win a championship. They don't have the mentality. Like I feel like it's seriously a culture problem. And I guess I'll mention this. If the Mavs can trade Luca for a culture problem, maybe Embiid isn't out of the picture or like out of the trade scenarios. Like maybe they could get rid of Joel Embiid. I'm just wondering what you get back and like what that entails for your future. So I don't even know, man.
I I think
I
what you were
mean,
s- I think what you were saying with the culture issue is something that is on par. I do believe that is an issue. But I think the biggest thing that is holding the 76ers back is Embiid hasn't been healthy at all this season. If we saw Embiid healthy and playing like his MVP level season, I think they would easily be a top four team in the East. Um, we know what Embiid can do when healthy, and he's shown that, and he's a top five player when healthy. I just feel like we haven't seen that at all this season. Maybe next season, once everybody's back and healthy, they could become that fourth seed or like a top four seed in the NBA, but I have no idea.
yeah. I mean, I just don't love this roster. I just
Yeah.
don't think it's. I just don't think there's. It's not really cohesive. There's a couple of different personalities. I don't know. I just don't really like this roster. I don't like the way that it's set up. On top of that, not to reiterate what like Victor said, and I've already said it probably 10 times in the span of 10 minutes, you're not really getting too far without your star player playing. In the games he has played this season, the 19, it almost looks like they're just everyone's just really trying hard to get him going. And it kind of hinders the team ball aspect of the game. It's just not great. They're definitely not better without him. I know some people will probably take it as me saying that, but obviously they're better with Embiid, but he hasn't looked comfortable playing all year. He looks like very uncomfortable. He's definitely playing through something. He has his whole career, but now it's just really, really stacking up. And it's just not looking good for Philly. Good thing y'all have the Eagles. There must have been some soul selling this past season with getting Saquon to sacrifice the Sixers because by the Lord Jesus, this is bad.
I was gonna say, bouncing off like what you said about the roster, this roster is a mixture of players who are just too young to even know what their upside is just yet. And then the other part of it is players who are way too old. There's just not enough like prime, close to prime players. Like you got Adam Bona, 21, Jared Butler, 24, Ricky Council, 23, Justin Edwards, 21. Those are like their promising young guys, all super young. These guys are not going to be playoff performers. These guys aren't going to be championship rotation players, right? Then you got Andre Drummond, who's on the back end of his prime, could be a decent contributor. Kelly Oubre Jr. is kind of in that like solid role player age level. I don't know if I trust Kelly Oubre in the playoffs, but he's closer than these other guys. Not to mention you have Jared McCain on that lower side as well. Quentin Grimes at 24, and then you got the guys on the back end, which is like Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, like these role players who are just they're too old to be on a contending team, like and play significant minutes and be big contributions from the bench. Like this roster is just constructed in a way where you either don't know what the ceiling of your players is going to be or they're over their primes by a long shot and they're not going to perform in the playoffs. This team was never built to win to begin with. And Vic, that's why I definitely disagree that they could be a top four seed next year unless they make some pretty significant moves. Um,
I just feel
or
like
like someone takes a step, one of the young guys, and like Edwards, I guess, has shown the most promise, but
mhm.
I mean, I don't. It's going to take more than just 1 year.
Yeah, I just feel like with Embiid and what when we've seen him healthy, he elevates that 76ers team. And I think whenever he's healthy, they've been at least a top five seed in the East. So
What's
that's what I was kind of getting at.
my thing is like the deepest run they made, right? which was what, the Western or the Eastern Conference Finals.
No, they never
Like
made
what
it. Second
No,
round.
they've never made it there.
second round?
Yeah.
Whenever Kawhi hit the shot, that's the series I'm referring to. That's the farthest they made it. So they're like that's like one of the best. That's the best chance they had of the Eastern
Yeah.
Conference Finals. Sorry, I misspoke.
2019.
So what was that roster looking like? Prime Jimmy Butler, prime Tobias Harris, Ben
Ben.
Simmons, prime Ben Simmons by
JJ
but
Redick.
career wise prime. I guess not prime JJ Redick, but just outside of his prime JJ Redick. Like you got like all of those guys are in that age group where you are like the contribution, you are the perfect role player around Joel Embiid to like win in the playoffs, right? You're over the hump where you've developed, you're refined as a player, but you're not too old where you're on the back end of your career. That's what you need to surround Joel Embiid with. Like some kind of youth, because especially a guy who's 7 feet 280, constantly injury prone. Like you need guys who can force turnovers and things like that, but can also contribute on offense. And right now, I don't think they have two-way guys. Paul George would be the two-way guy, but of course, Paul George is having a horrible season. And like Kelly Oubre's kind of a two-way guy, not really on offense. He's a decent offensive player. They just don't got the two-way guys, man. It's this team even next year, like yeah, Embiid could elevate them, but I'm not convinced that they could even crack a top five seed. I say ceiling would be six seed for them.
Yeah. I feel like what you were saying, I feel like they were definitely looking to like have a similar lineup like they did in 2019. That's why they went and got Paul George to be like that two-way guy. But he just hasn't been that. He's also, I would say, on the back end of his career. He isn't super young. He's getting up there in age a little bit. We're not going to see Paul George for that much longer in the league. But again, they didn't really have a whole lot of options this past offseason. So Paul George might have been a little bit of a desperation shot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe could have went after D Mitch, could have went after Jaylen Brown before he signed that contract. That would have been solid. I'm trying to make a prediction here, but no names are popping in my head. I just don't see anybody going to this team. Who am I thinking of? Who am I thinking of? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they could get. Just pray that Jared McCain becomes that dude. Maxey keeps doing what he's doing, and maybe, but it's just not looking great, man. Not looking great. Reed Shepard. That's who I was thinking of.
It just, man, it just blows, dude. Like Paul George, if he just had a season similar to last season, it would just alleviate so many problems. Like he was a 41% three-point shooter last year. This year he's just league average on one less attempt. Like his field goal percentage is below the average NBA player this season. He was at 23 points last season. This season he's at 16. Like he's just not producing. And it's just, dude, it just handicaps this team, especially when Embiid's not playing. Like, who do you go to? Not Paul George. Like, obviously it's Maxey, but dude, he can't carry a roster like this, man.
Yeah, dude.
I genuinely
I mean,
like feel bad for Tyrese Maxey.
he's already doing his part though, man. He's averaging 27. I don't know the full extent of how many assists and rebounds he's averaging, but I know he's averaging 27.
No, yeah, this isn't on Maxi here, man. I
No.
mean, your league MVP is not playing. Your ideally, who most probably thought second option Paul George is playing like an eighth option. This ain't on Paul George, or this isn't on Maxi, man. It takes me back to the RDC video where he was acting like a coach and he came in and he was like, "Nah, this ain't my fault, man. Y'all are trash." That's probably how Maxi is in after every single game. Like, yo, y'all are trash. This isn't on me. The fact that he had to call out Joel Embiid, Maxi's like our age. It's just insane that he actually had to go out there and do that. To tell the former MVP of the league and your team's best player to call him out for being late or whatever the hell it was for.
Yeah. I mean, I can just rattle some things off to just show how bad this team is. They're 26th in the league in points per game. They're 26th in the league in field goal percentage. 26th in the league again at 3-point percentage. Like, man, dude, 29th in the league in points allowed, like a bad 29. It's, oh, man. Opponents are shooting 49% against them. That's the highest in the league.
Damn.
It's like, dude, what is going good for this team right now? Oh,
Well, I
man.
guess you can say they're consistent. Lee bad.
They're perfectly ass. I
Yeah,
love using that phrase.
perfectly. That's really funny. But yeah, man, it's a dumpster fire. Morale is low. It's just not looking too good. Where's Pauldo, man? I can't believe he thought that was a good idea. So stupid. How are you not? How are you that dumb? Why? He was asking for it. I remember when that video was posted. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I actually
Yeah.
don't. I was about to ask you.
So it was maybe like a year or two ago on Halloween. You know how the players they'll wear their stupid freaking costumes to the games and stuff. Paul George was Where's Waldo one year.
No.
And when he was walking into the tunnel, yeah, it was like 2 years ago, maybe even last season. He was walking into the tunnel and he was like, "Where's Pauldo?" It's corny, stupid joke. I didn't even think about it at the time, but then there was just like a stitch on it on Twitter, and people are like, "This dude better perform this year in the playoffs." They were already looking at 6 months in advance. They're like, "This dude better never have a bad game again. You got to stop shooting 20% from three in the playoffs." Don't know if he shot that low, but you guys know what I mean. You got to
Yeah.
Yeah.
stop hitting the side of the backboard. You got to stop being ass. Like, there's just a lot of things that you better never do again because this video will circulate.
Dude, how have I never seen this? I just looked it up.
Where's Pauldo?
Oh,
It's just like any of the players that work at Raising Canes. It's like, dude, y'all
Tyler
better
Hero.
not have a bad game. Tyler Hero, Drew Holiday. It's like, dude, y'all better not
Yo,
have a
dude.
bad game.
The best one was during media day this year when D'Angelo Russell was speaking Chinese.
I
It's like,
forgot about
oh,
that.
like you're such an idiot, dude. You should have turned that down. I understand,
Yeah,
like in your contracts and stuff, it says you have to do all this extra stuff. I would have taken the fine if I was D'Lo. He should know better.
dude, I haven't heard from D. Completely off topic. I haven't heard anything about D'Lo in some time, in months. Dude, are we ever gonna hear from D'Lo again?
I, th- I think I think everyone's just over it now. Like we already seen him hoop in Brooklyn. Don't know if he's playing to that level yet, but
Well,
I don't know.
he went from the most covered team in the NBA to one of the least covered. So you're just not gonna hear from him unless he plays the Lakers. That's when you'll hear him.
Dude, can we talk about just some of these losses the Sixers have took recently? Because they're bad, man. Like Kevin mentioned earlier about the Chicago Bulls. They're currently on a 8 game losing streak. Wow. Eight
Yeah,
game losing streak.
what is it? They've won like one game out of their past like 10, 11, something
Yeah,
like that.
they're
Yeah.
1-11.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They beat
Paul
Dallas
George,
by 2.
Paul George averaging 16 points is so funny. That's hilarious, dude.
Dude, it's just they lost to Brooklyn by 2. They lost to Brooklyn twice in this stretch. 1 by 4, 1 by 2. Lost to the Raptors. Oh man. Oh,
Dude, Paul George is gonna start going out like Melo, dude. Because when Melo, like when he was like on the back end of his prime, when he was like on OKC and stuff, he was only averaging like 13, 12 points a game. Paul George is like already there, averaging 16. Like it's gonna get ugly, dude. We're gonna see Paul George on like a super random team in like 3 years. I'm calling it. It is either Sacramento or Portland. You heard it here first.
dude, Portland would be kind of tough just to have a veteran.
I only
I
said
kind of
Portland.
rock. Go ahead.
I only said Portland because that's where Melo was. I was like, he's just gonna follow in the footsteps. Maybe go to the Lakers. We'll see.
I don't even know. I kind of rock with Paul George in a Blazers jersey for some reason. That just sits right with me.
Yeah,
But
I don't know
dude,
if the fans will rock with it.
looking at this losing streak is just so funny, dude. Maxey 30, Maxey 42, Maxey 34, Maxey 33, 31, 27, 39, 31. Like, dude, every game damn near is just Tyrese Maxey leading scorer. And it's just like absurd. He like 30 points per game every night. They just
Yeah,
get blown out. It
it's
sucks.
so crazy.
Give him some help, man. Jeez.
Dude, they tried. They
Like
tried.
the RDC skip man is so accurate in this scenario. Y'all are trash. This
It's
is not
because
my
they,
fault.
dude, it's because they got Ricky Council and Justin Edwards in the starting lineup. Like, what do we want? What do we expect?
Yeah. I mean, their starting lineup against Chicago yesterday wasn't too horrible. It was Grimes, Oubre, Maxey, Yabusele, and Paul George. Yabusele had 0 points. I think he left the game early with an injury because he only played 13 minutes. But like David
Who was the
Roddy was sick off
center?
the bench. It was Yabusele.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Who
Embiid
else?
didn't
Ricky
play.
Council with 12. Lonnie Walker shot 1 for 7 from three and 2-11 from the field. There's a reason you were overseas, and you're kind of
Dude,
proving that.
that's what I'm saying. Like Lonnie Walker being on this roster is just the epitome of like what this organization is going through right now. That's insane. I saw
Jared
him on the
Butler.
roster. I like didn't even mention him because I was like, well, he probably won't be here for much longer. Let's be honest.
Bro, they just need to give Jahlil Okafor the call, man. Bring him back. Bring Jahlil Okafor back. He had two posters today. I don't know if it was today, but I was scrolling through IG earlier and they're like Jahlil Okafor back-to-back posters. And I was like, they could use this.
Loki, like, what can Drummond do that Jahlil Okafor can't at this point in his career besides rebound?
What can Drummond do that Jahlil Okafor can't?
Yeah.
I think is Drummond still shooting threes every now and again? I haven't seen the Sixers play in a bit.
I feel like Jahlil Okafor can hit a three now and again if he's truly been developing.
Like he can, I'm sure he can hit the three. Yeah. Will he take one in the game? Probably not. I think he's probably a lot better around the basket right now than Andre Drummond might be. He's also younger, but is that going to help much? No, but it's just give someone else a chance, because these your current solution is not great.
Yeah. I don't know, man. There's really not much to say. Dumpster fire. No one plays. Paul George regressed, and the roster sucks. You think Nick Nurse is on the hot seat?
Oh yeah, that's usually
You
what
think so?
happens
Yeah,
first.
I'll say yeah, but like not
I
not for
don't.
the right reasons.
It's
Yeah.
not his
Like
fault.
it's not
No,
his fault, but everyone's blames the coach first. It's always the first person blamed.
Yeah.
it's the easiest
Unfortunately.
scapegoat, man.
Yeah, we'll take him as an assistant coach in Boston. Thank you. Have fun with Mike Boondozer next season, Philly fans. He'll be a great addition.
He might. This might be a good transition into our next topic, but I know the Spurs they're saying that Greg Popovich's coaching is up in the question for if he'll return next season. So maybe he goes there if they fire him.
I kind of feel like they just stick with Mitch Johnson. He's been doing a really good job. I feel like they just hire the interim head coach.
I was I'll never know how I felt about that, like hiring the interim as like the head coach, unless in the Celtics scenario it worked out great with getting Joe Mazzulla, but there was already like a
Yeah.
system established and they were already good.
Mhm.
Not saying that it was what he did was easy, but like Spurs weren't that great. Popovich,
Yeah.
I think he's still a great coach, but with his health issues, hopefully we can get him back on the court. But I don't know. I'd say go get someone established. This isn't an interim scenario. We need to get a guy in here. You have Wemby on your team with De'Aaron Fox. Let's get a brain in there.
We were talking about interim head coaches. Jock Vaughn. Jock Vaughn is an example of one that did not work
Yeah,
for
there
the
we go.
Nets. That's all
But
I
yeah.
wanted to contribute.
Go take that Spurs job. But yeah, I think we're pretty much done talking about Philly now. We've definitely moved on, or at least I am. I'll let y'all
Yeah,
talk, but I'm gonna set my mic down until we talk about the Spurs.
yeah. Let's talk about the Spurs. Victor, what's wrong with the Spurs?
Well, their best player just got a season-ending injury with deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder. We've seen players like Brandon Ingram, Chris Bosh, Sar Thompson get this before. It's definitely a very scary injury, especially being that young as Wemby is, and he's had a phenomenal season. And it's actually pretty crazy that the Spurs just noticed that he had low energy, and their medical team decided to run tests, and they ended up finding that out and shut him down for the rest of the season. They're saying he's going to make a full recovery by next season, and we'll see him back on the court. But yeah, when your best player goes down like that, I don't, and especially the current situation they're in right now. I think they're sitting 12th in the West. I think their playoff chances are out of the window. They were fighting for a play-in spot.
Yeah. Well, we saw Bi get that, and I believe 2018, 2019. Very next season, most improved. So I think it's confirmed Wemby will get MVP next year. He was supposed to get he was running away with the defensive player of the year award. He was like a minus 2,500 favorite. Like that sucks. Like he
Yeah,
was gonna get it, but he didn't play 65 games this year. He missed that requirement. So that's super unfortunate. But with Wemby going down, there's a new runner in the capture the flag sweepstakes. You hear me?
Yeah,
Because what's funny is when David Robinson went down in the late 90s, missed the whole season, got the number one pick, and got Tim Duncan. And we know how that turned out. So if they just repeat that, they get Cooper Flagg. Now you got Cooper Flagg, Wemby, and De'Aaron Fox. That's nuts. And they're not that far away from being like one of the worst teams in the league, record
yeah.
wise.
but dude, I think it's gonna be really hard to catch up to the Wizards.
They
Like,
have what, like a 3% chance right now?
yeah, I'm gonna look it up. It might have changed, but uh, yeah, there's still 3% chance right now.
Yeah, if you're interested in viewing how the San Antonio Spurs can capture the flag in the offseason, we have a video made by our precious co-host Victor on the second channel, GMLB. Good Morning
Check it
Let's
out.
Basketball. Go peep that. Very good video. Um, but yeah, so season's cooked at this point. Um, this is essentially just a Stefan Castle development year, I think. Number one priority for the Spurs. Maybe give Devin Vassell some more ball handling opportunities. Does you think Chris Paul has one more in him after this season? You think he's willing to like wait and see what happens? Probably, right?
It's like I think he can play another year for sure, but like, will he be on the Spurs? Because we're kind of seeing him bounce around a lot at the end of his
Ooh,
career. Like, do they bring him back? Like, he might want to play another year or two, but like, again, like, do they bring him back? I feel like it might depend on how like some of these younger guys play the rest of the year. Like, if we just see Devin Vassell, Castle, and a bunch of these other young dudes just take a huge leap, might not need him.
That's true because he is on a 1 year contract. I could see him getting moved on from the Spurs. They just decide to go with Stephon Castle and De'Aaron Fox because I mean they ultimately traded Fox to as that piece next to Wemby that they wanted
interesting.
I mean, if he comes back, it's on league minimum,
for
obviously.
sure. Yeah,
I don't think that definitely doesn't take a genius to figure that out. But a little slightly off topic. The fact that Harrison Barnes and Bismack Biyombo are both 32 sickens me. I feel like these dudes have been in the NBA for 100 years. They're only 32.
yeah. I felt like that for a long time about Harrison Barnes, dude. It seems like he's been in the league since I've been 10 years old.
Yeah, he was that top draft pick for the Warriors.
Yeah.
Then they went and
He
won
was,
that chip.
yeah. So I remember he was super young when they won the finals. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
the starting small forward who shot terribly in the finals, but great all year. got a ring, nice. Then he went on with his career. Just so happened to look up his age. I was like, wow, this dude has like a handful of years actually left to play. This dude could probably play till he's 39. I mean, he doesn't really
Yeah.
rely on his athleticism too much. But how is Biombo 32? This can't be correct.
Dude, how is he even like on an NBA roster with all due respect? Bro, did you know he's only 6'8"?
I
He's a
was literally just
6'8"
about to say
center.
that. I swear on everything, I was just about to say that.
He's a 6'8" center. Julian Champagny is a 6'7" like combo, like guard forward combo. Like sometimes
Yeah.
they run him at the two, and he's 6'7". That's
Well, they're,
crazy.
well, they're starting point guard for some games last season. Sohan is 6'8".
Please don't remind me of that.
Yeah,
Please. I might
that
puke in
was a
my
time.
mouth.
Yeah, dude, this is funny. Got Charles Bassey in there too. Hell yeah. I mean, so like the Spurs have some type of future to look forward to. It's definitely not over. I don't think I didn't really think they had a chance at all this season, just with the start they got off to. Getting Fox at the deadline. This will just give them some more time to build chemistry with the rest of the team. Wemby being just the absolute great player that he is, I feel like they'll be able to adjust to each other. I don't really think that's too huge of an issue for the chemistry's sake. But it is what it is. I think everyone's just hoping that this doesn't become a more of a bigger issue or a reoccurring issue for Wemby, like we saw it do with Chris Bosh.
Mhm.
You know, just being that damn tall, there's just a lot of health issues that people think about. Like people just think about injuries, like you know, like he might twist his ankle, he might land funny. It's like no, there's some inside stuff that can go wrong too, like that.
Yeah, bro's
So I'm
kidneys
just
are like that. They're like this long, but no one talks about
exactly,
those.
but we're not like I said, Chris Bosh being above a 7 footer, Brandon Ingram, he might be 7 feet, he's big as hell, but like
True.
it's there's stuff that comes with it. I'm just hoping that we don't see Wemby have an early exit to his career for something like this.
Oh, man, I don't even want to think about that. That would be the
You know,
worst thing, not only for us, but also for the NBA in general.
that would be horrible for the NBA.
I really don't think that would happen though, just because of how fast and early they caught it. If this was something that was like deeper into the season, they found that out late, I think it could have seemed like a reoccurring issue, but luckily they caught it fast.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the Karis LeVert when he got traded and they ended up finding out he had cancer very early.
Karis LeVert, really? That was Karis
Yeah,
LeVert?
Hmm.
Dang.
that's Karis LeVert.
Hmm.
It's like imagine if he didn't get traded.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Not to bring up a dark segment, but like holy shit.
Wait, so like, is he good? He doesn't have like cancer, right?
No.
Oh, this was like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was when he was that on the Brooklyn Nets and he got traded to
Oh, I do remember that now.
who did he get
I
traded to?
He went from the Nets to the Pacers, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Was it when did they find out when he got traded to the Nets or from the Nets?
It was from the Nets to the Pacers, I believe. Because I remember
Yeah, you're right.
he was
You're
balling
right.
on Brooklyn. It was his like breakout year, and then he ended up getting traded.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I forgot Karis LeVert was on the Pacers.
But no, Miles, they caught it early, so it ended up just he had a full recovery from it.
Dang. Well, that's good. Um, do we think De'Aaron Fox? So I'm not sure how aware you guys are of this, but De'Aaron Fox has been playing with a like a dislocated pinky injury that kind of has just been. That's why he always has his hand taped up when he plays this whole season. And there's rumors that he might just get surgery this season since it's pretty much chalked at this point. How much truth do you think there is to that? Do you think he'll actually go and get the surgery and just kind of shut his season down, or do you think he's going to keep playing?
I mean, just you got to think of it in terms of like the risk to reward like ratio. Like they're not really going anywhere this year. I think it's a little too late to crack a playing spot. So it's almost like, what are you playing for at this point? Like we could risk this becoming an even bigger issue. If Wemby didn't go down with this injury, I think he would 100% keep playing. But now that you pretty much said it. Like it's chalked. Like we have a lot of time. Fox is only 27. There's so much young talent. Wemby's just legally able became to buy a beer. Like there's time. Like let go get healthy. Everyone just go get healthy for next season, and we'll start fresh.
Yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't get the surgery done if he needs it, and especially if, like Kevin said, chalk the season, go get healthy. I don't see why he wouldn't do that. Is there like any articles or something saying that he's not going to?
It says Fox remains focused on contributing to the team's efforts for the remainder of the season before undergoing any surgical procedures, but that was before Wemby went down. So could change his mind now. Um, man, I think Greg Popovich is done coaching, bro. As sad as it is.
Yeah, it sucks. I think he might be too. It just sucks to see the way he went out. Not
Mm,
not retiring at the top of the mountain like we all hoped and wish he would. It sucks because it was he had the stroke a couple months ago, right? In like November ish, October, like
hmm.
near the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's an old fella.
Yeah.
Went to high school in the region, so he's a legend.
Hmm. Yes,
But
sir.
but yeah, definitely. He never got the chance to go to the finals with the alien
With Victor
like he did with all those other
Wembanyama.
guys. Yeah, that'd have been sick. If because
Dude.
if he won a finals with Victor Wembanyama like this early in his career within the next like year or two, it's like we've just seen this dude dominate for just way too long
Can you
as a
imagine
coach.
like a picture like split in three parts? It's like one that has David Robinson in it. The next is like the Spurs that beat LeBron in the Heat with like Kawhi and Tony Parker in them. And then like all the way to the right is like Wemby, De'Aaron Fox, and like Chris Paul. Like, can you imagine Chris Paul gets a chip, bro? Popovich wins. Wemby gets his first chip. Like, dude, there is like a lot to that storyline. Obviously, this is
Yeah,
wishful thinking because, they're so young, they're not quite ready yet. But, like, man, a Spurs championship under Popovich would be like a huge cultural achievement for the NBA.
yeah, dude, that would be massive. Like over the span of like 26 years, like you just said, late 90s, the 2000s and 2010s, and now into this decade, the new age of basketball. Where people might have thought that Greg Popovich's coaching would be a little bit outdated. He's like,
Yeah.
no, y'all don't know me.
Like, dude, that I'm almost in the boat that like another Spurs championship would probably be the most influential championship besides maybe Luca's first and LeBron's fifth. Like that might be a slightly better storyline, but there's not a lot of teams where their championship would mean more for just the culture and the league in general. But
Trying to think.
That is true
Um,
of other teams.
that is a good yeah, that would be a
I would
great
say
story.
I'd say the Knicks winning one would be pretty massive.
yeah,
Just
just
them
because
being
they
like,
haven't in so long.
yes, it's like what the Walt Frazier days, and also like it's just such a big market too. Like
Mhm.
the Knicks being in the finals, like people are going to tune into that because it may never
Yeah,
happen again.
it's a good point. All right, that's pretty much all I got on the Spurs, fellas. What about you?
It's real. I have to. Might have to bring in Tim Duncan, Manu, and Tony Parker on that coaching staff. It's not a horrible idea.
Or on the pod as guests? Yeah,
Um,
next week I'll text him. I'll make
Yeah,
a
that's
group
all I
chat.
got.
Yeah, that's all I got as well. Not too much going on in the league this week. Besides the Sixers being trash. That goes on every week.
This is uh this is deglazing Wemby for an hour. We already did the glazing. This is the
Deglazing.
opposite. Sulking.
Cleaning. Cleaning Wemby for an hour.
Pause.
Yeah, you're
Big
right.
pause.
Vic, you look like you wanted to say something for the past like 2 minutes. Is there something you want to say?
I was just gonna, th- I was just gonna say, like, dude, just imagine the Spurs actually get Cooper Flagg. That
What I'm saying. You sat on
that
that for a minute. That was the first thing I said when we talked about.
I know, dude. Just that would freaking. There's no way that can happen, man. I don't
Hey,
like. I
lottery's
don't.
a lottery.
I
Man,
understand
it's not
that,
like the
but
NFL, bro.
I really do feel like I can see Cooper Flagg being a Jazz uh, on the
That
Jazz.
would be
I don't.
so sad. That'd be
That would
so
I
sad.
do.
suck.
I do really believe that the Jazz are going to get the number one pick for some reason. I just got a gut feeling, but there is a slight chance that he might be a Spur, and you pair him next to Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. Dude, that's just ridiculous.
Are we
Dude.
are we sold on Cooper Flagg as an
Yes.
NBA player?
Yeah.
Because
Well,
like,
he hasn't made the NBA yet, but this dude is putting up generational numbers in college right now.
what's he averaging? Like 20 points?
21, 22.
What did you like? Okay, before before I make this claim, let me okay, never mind. I'm rescinding this claim. I was gonna say like what did
Probably
Jabari
bad.
Smith Jr. average in college? It was like 17, 7 and 2, 42% from three. He's just like a role player for the Rockets. I don't know. He was pretty good in college. He was that number one guy consensus for a while.
Yeah, but like you could say that for like literally any player that's ever been a top 3 pick in the 78-year history of the league.
No,
But
that's
I
why
will
I'm
say,
saying, are we sold on him? That's why I'm saying, because he could like turn out, like a
oh yeah,
normal NBA player.
of course, absolutely. But like no matter what, if you have the number 1 pick, you take him. There's no discussion. We saw what he was able to do for Team Select, and also just like what he's doing in college too. Like he's just such like a raw scorer. He gets to his spots really well, attacks the basket. He's very physical. Like Jabari Smith, like wasn't really like that in college. He was great. Don't get me wrong. He was hitting that three, but he wasn't like as raw as a talent as Cooper Flagg is.
Yeah, and this is why GMLB only covers the NBA, because you get guys like me comparing Cooper Flagg to Jabari Smith Jr.
Yeah, that was that was criminal.
That's why we cover the NBA and we don't cover college ball. We'll wait until they get here and then we'll analyze. I don't watch enough Cooper Flagg film to understand the true magnitude of his talent.
He broke the ACC scoring freshman record with 42 points against Notre Dame. I know he had another record that was, I think that he did that was pretty impressive. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Kevin.
He wouldn't beat Goku.
I'm not sure to be honest.
Maybe I'm tripping.
Yeah, Mark Williams
Probably.
was pretty good at Duke too. Yeah, he was pretty good.
Dude, why are you hating?
Yeah, Trayvon Duval was pretty sick
Trayvon
in
Duval
high
was
school.
pretty sick at Duke. His mixtape is insane.
Yeah, bro, Justice Winslow was a dog in college now that I think about
Oh my
it.
God, I forgot about
National
that.
national champion.
Dude, somehow if Cooper Flagg just becomes a bust, this is gonna look like the greatest take ever. If somehow that happens, but it won't. So let's not dwell. Let's not dwell on this too long.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up our discussion about Wemby and the Spurs. Comment down below what you guys think about Wemby and what you guys see him averaging next season. If you guys enjoyed the episode, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're listening on there. We also started a second channel called Good Morning Let's Basketball. This channel is just Good Morning Let's Basketball podcast. Make sure to subscribe to that. We're dropping weekly videos, retrospectives, current NBA news, and stuff like that. And we upload weekly on the podcast. So make sure to check us out on here if you enjoy it. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.